Imagine for a moment that the story of Jesus you were told is only a fragment of a much deeper reality. Think about it. What if some of his most powerful teachings were deliberately hidden, erased, or distorted through time? What if his words held keys to human transformation so profound that institutions feared their power? Today, we are going to uncover 10 of the most forbidden teachings of Jesus, the ones that could completely change the way you see life, the universe, and your own spiritual path. And let me promise you something right from the beginning. The last one we will reveal is the most powerful of all, and once you hear it, you may never see your faith or existence the same way again. Before we dive in, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, leave a like, and share this video with those who are also seekers of truth. Write your reflections in the comments, because what we are about to explore may resonate deeply with your own soul's journey. Stay until the end, because these revelations could shift the way you understand spirituality and the very essence of divine wisdom. Throughout history, humanity has been told a carefully edited version of Jesus' words. The Gospels we know are but a selection, chosen centuries later by councils and authorities, who decided what was acceptable and what was dangerous. But fragments of ancient texts, Gnostic writings, and esoteric traditions reveal a different Jesus, one who spoke not only of faith, but of knowledge, of inner divinity, of awakening the sacred power hidden within each person. Scholars like Elaine Pagels, expert in Gnosticism, and Bart Ehrman, historian of early Christianity, have shown us that the early centuries were filled with diverse interpretations of his message, many of which were later condemned and buried. Yet, like seeds under the soil, they survive, waiting to sprout again in the hearts of those who are ready. So ask yourself, why would the church, the empire, or religious authorities hide these teachings? Could it be because they empower the individual rather than the institution? Could it be because they reveal that the kingdom of God is not in distant heavens, but within you right now, accessible through consciousness and spiritual practice? If so, then rediscovering these forbidden teachings is not just an intellectual exercise, it is an act of liberation. Let us begin by peeling back the layers of history. The first forbidden teaching is one of the most radical statements Jesus ever made, yet it is often ignored or softened. The kingdom of God is within you. This was not merely a metaphor. It was a direct challenge to external religion, to the idea that salvation is granted only through priests, temples, or rituals. Jesus was declaring that divinity is not a distant force, but an inner reality. Think about the implications. If God dwells within, then you carry within yourself the same sacred spark that animated the prophets, the saints, even the Christ himself. What would happen if people truly embraced this idea? Would they remain submissive to institutions, or would they awaken to their own spiritual sovereignty? This first teaching alone was enough to alarm religious authorities. Because once you understand that the divine is already inside you, no one can control your access to God. You do not need mediators. You do not need to purchase forgiveness. You are the living temple. The mystics, the Gnostics, and the Hermetic philosophers all echoed this truth across the ages. The microcosm reflects the macrocosm, and within you lies the blueprint of the universe. Jesus' words confirmed this eternal wisdom, but such a message was too empowering to be allowed to flourish. Now I want to ask you directly, do you believe that the divine lives within you? Or have you been conditioned to think of yourself as powerless, dependent on external authority? Write your thoughts in the comments, because engaging with this question is already a step toward awakening, and this is only the beginning. Because if the kingdom is within, then the second forbidden teaching follows naturally, and it is even more unsettling for those who built their power on keeping humanity in ignorance. To be continued. The second forbidden teaching of Jesus is the idea that human beings are not merely passive creatures, but co-creators with the divine. In the Gospel of John, Jesus declares, "You will do even greater things than these." Pause for a moment and let that sink in. He was not only healing the sick and raising the dead, he was opening the door for others to realize that the same creative force flows through them. If humanity understood this fully, the world would no longer bow to rulers or institutions that claim exclusive access to divine power. Each person would walk as a radiant being, fully conscious of their potential. Why was this message suppressed? Because a population that believes it can perform miracles that can manifest healing, transformation, and direct communion with God, becomes impossible to control. The Roman Empire, and later the institutional church, needed obedient subjects, not awakened creators. Scholars such as Rudolf Steiner and contemporary theologians point out that the teachings about inner transformation and spiritual mastery were gradually replaced with dogma and ritual, designed to keep the believer dependent on external authority rather than inner awakening. Ask yourself, have you ever felt that spark? That moment when you know your thoughts, your intentions, your faith itself can shape reality? Have you ever seen coincidences, synchronicities, or manifestations that go beyond logic? Jesus was telling us that this is not random. It is the very nature of our spiritual design. Comment below if you have ever experienced something so powerful that it made you wonder whether you were touching the edge of the miraculous. The third forbidden teaching is the radical notion of equality before God. Jesus broke social, cultural, and religious barriers in his time. He spoke to women as equals, he healed Gentiles, he sat with the poor and the outcast, and he declared that in the kingdom of God, the last would be first and the first would be last. This teaching directly threatened hierarchies that thrived on exclusion, privilege, and control. Elaine Pagels notes that early Christian communities were often diverse and inclusive, but as Christianity became institutionalized, these radical messages were downplayed. A Jesus who empowers women, slaves, foreigners, and sinners was far too dangerous for those who built empires on rigid structures of power. Think about this. If we truly lived as if every soul were equally divine, how would society change? What would happen to systems built on oppression, inequality, and exploitation? Would wealth and status hold the same meaning, or would we begin to measure greatness by love, compassion, and spiritual wisdom? Reflect on this deeply and share your vision in the comments, because this teaching, if embraced, would revolutionize not only religion, but civilization itself. Now the fourth forbidden teaching takes us into the heart of mystical spirituality. Jesus taught not only through words, but through silence, prayer, and states of deep communion. In the Gospel of Thomas, a text discovered in the sands of Egypt in 1945, he says, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you." This is not about external law or ritual. It is about inner revelation. The path to God, according to this teaching, is inward, through meditation, contemplation, and awakening of consciousness. Why would such a message be suppressed? Because it bypasses the institution. If salvation comes through direct inner experience, then priests, temples, and systems of control lose their grip. This is why mystics across the centuries, from Meister Eckhart to Saint Teresa of Avila, often faced suspicion, persecution, or even condemnation. They dared to affirm that the soul could unite directly with the divine without mediation. Consider your own spiritual life. Have you ever felt that the deepest truths came not from sermons or doctrines, but from moments of silence, from inner stillness, from a sudden realization that transcended words? This is the very essence of what Jesus was teaching. The kingdom is not found in rituals imposed by others, but in the awakening of your inner light. And now prepare yourself, because the fifth forbidden teaching moves beyond personal awakening and enters the realm of cosmic knowledge, a truth so profound that it was carefully hidden, yet echoes in Hermetic traditions and ancient wisdom alike. The fifth forbidden teaching of Jesus is the revelation of cosmic unity, the idea that all things are interconnected and that the divine presence is woven into every particle of creation. In passages often overlooked or allegorized, Jesus spoke of oneness with the Father, of vines and branches, of light that shines in all. These were not merely poetic metaphors, they were profound mystical truths. The Gospel of Thomas contains the cryptic but powerful words, "Split a piece of wood, I am there. Lift up the stone and you will find me there." Imagine what it means. The presence of Christ is not confined to temples or scriptures, but infused into every corner of existence. Why was this dangerous? Because if divinity is everywhere, then sacredness cannot be monopolized. No building, no priest, no empire can claim exclusive rights to God. This aligns with the Hermetic principle, as above, so below, which mirrors the idea that the macrocosm and microcosm are reflections of one another. Scholars like Carl Jung recognize that such teachings resonate with the archetypal structures of human consciousness. They invite us to see ourselves not as isolated beings, but as threads in the infinite tapestry of creation. Now let me ask you, if everything is divine, how does that change the way you treat the earth, animals, and even the people you consider enemies? Would you still exploit, divide, and destroy? Or would you recognize in each face and each moment a spark of the eternal Christ? Share your thoughts in the comments, because reflecting on this could be the beginning of a radical transformation in how we live. The sixth forbidden teaching is the power of inner transformation through forgiveness and love. While forgiveness is often preached, the deeper dimension of it is rarely understood. Jesus did not simply teach us to forgive moral mistakes. He invited us to transcend the cycle of violence, resentment, and karmic bondage. Love your enemies, he said, a command so revolutionary that it still challenges the strongest of hearts. This teaching is not about weakness, but about the alchemy of the soul. To forgive is to free yourself from chains that bind you to pain and hatred. Why would this be suppressed? Because a society built on vengeance, punishment, and fear is easier to control. But a community of awakened beings who no longer respond to hatred with hatred becomes impossible to enslave. Forgiveness creates inner sovereignty. Love disarms tyranny. Mystics like Leo Tolstoy and Mahatma Gandhi drew directly from these forbidden dimensions of Jesus' teaching to ignite movements of non-violent resistance that shook the foundations of empires. Think of your own life. Who have you struggled to forgive? What resentment continues to hold you captive? Imagine what would happen if you released it, not to justify injustice, but to reclaim your peace. This teaching is not only spiritual, it is psychological, even biological. Studies by modern scientists like Dr. Fred Luskin at Stanford have shown that forgiveness can reduce stress, improve health, and even extend life. Jesus was revealing a universal law. To love is to align with the deepest rhythm of the universe. The seventh forbidden teaching is perhaps one of the most mysterious, the idea of reincarnation and the soul's journey beyond a single lifetime. Although controversial, traces of this teaching appear in early Christian thought. When Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" they replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." Notice what this implies. The belief in souls returning was already present among his followers. Or consider his statement about John the Baptist being the Elijah who was to come. These fragments suggest that Jesus did not dismiss the concept of multiple lifetimes, but rather affirmed the continuity of the soul's journey. Why would this be hidden? Because reincarnation shifts the balance of power. If souls return again and again, then eternal damnation, a powerful tool of fear and control, loses its grip. Instead, existence becomes a school for the soul, where growth, evolution, and eventual reunion with the divine are inevitable. Church authorities, wishing to secure obedience, emphasized a single life followed by eternal judgment. But mystics, Gnostics, and even church fathers like Origen hinted at a broader vision. Imagine what this means for you. If you are more than one lifetime, then your struggles, your gifts, your deep longings are part of a vast and beautiful journey. How does this change the way you see death? How does it shift the way you see your purpose right now? Reflect on this and share in the comments if this resonates with you, because awakening to the continuity of the soul is one of the greatest liberations. And yet, as profound as these teachings are, they still prepare the ground for something greater. Because the eighth forbidden teaching of Jesus touches the deepest essence of human identity, a truth so bold, so transformative, that it could shatter every illusion of separation. The eighth forbidden teaching of Jesus is the revelation of divine identity. In the Gospel of John, he says, "I and the Father are one." This was not arrogance, nor an exclusive claim. It was a declaration of unity with the divine that each of us is invited to realize. The mystics understood this. Meister Eckhart, a Christian mystic of the Middle Ages, declared, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me." The spark of divinity that Jesus embodied is not a foreign gift, it is the very essence of your being. Why was this dangerous? Because if people awaken to their own divine identity, no priest, ruler, or empire can interpose themselves as mediators. Imagine the implications. You are not merely a servant, but a child of God, carrying the same light that illuminated Christ. The institutional church, fearing the collapse of its power, reduced this teaching to dogma. Jesus alone was divine, and humanity was hopelessly fallen. Yet the original message, echoed in mystical traditions across the world, is that you too can awaken to the Christ within. The ninth forbidden teaching is the law of inner mastery through thought and intention. Jesus repeatedly emphasized the power of belief. According to your faith, let it be done to you. He said that if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can move mountains. These were not poetic exaggerations. They were insights into the creative nature of consciousness. Quantum physics, centuries later, would echo the mystery of observation shaping reality. The sages of the East, too, taught the mind's power over the material. Jesus revealed that faith is not blind obedience. It is the alignment of consciousness with divine law. Why would this be suppressed? Because a humanity that understands the creative power of its thoughts is no longer subject to manipulation through fear. Mass control depends on ignorance of inner power. But once people know that their consciousness shapes reality, they begin to reclaim sovereignty over their destiny. Think for a moment. How have your thoughts shaped your life? How many times has your inner conviction opened doors, or your fear closed them? Comment below, because recognizing this truth is the first step to using it consciously. And now, we arrive at the 10th and most powerful forbidden teaching of Jesus, the one that has the potential to revolutionize not only your spiritual path, but the destiny of humanity itself. It is the teaching of unconditional love as the highest law of the universe. Jesus was once asked, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" He replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments." This teaching is so simple, yet so threatening to systems built on fear, control, and hierarchy, that it had to be buried beneath layers of doctrine. Because if love is the highest law, then no empire, no institution, no dogma has ultimate authority. Love transcends them all. Think deeply about this. Unconditional love is not sentimental. It is the recognition of the divine in all things, the radical acceptance of oneness, the power that dissolves hatred, fear, and division. Love is not weakness. It is the strongest force in existence. It is what allowed Jesus to forgive his executioners, to heal the broken, and to reveal the kingdom of God not as a distant reward, but as a living reality here and now. Why is this the most forbidden teaching? Because once humanity realizes that love is the ultimate law, wars lose their justification, oppression loses its grip, and the illusions of separation crumble. A humanity awakened to love cannot be enslaved. This is why mystics, saints, and prophets throughout history have been persecuted, because they dared to embody the law of love in a world addicted to power. Now let me ask you, what would your life look like if you lived every moment guided by unconditional love? How would your relationships change? How would society change? Reflect on this and share your thoughts, because embracing this teaching is the key to transforming not only yourself, but the entire world. So here we are. We have uncovered 10 forbidden teachings of Jesus, from the kingdom within, to the power of thought, to the divine presence in all. Each one is a doorway to awakening. But the greatest of all is love, the force that binds the cosmos, the essence of God, the truth that sets us free. And now you must ask yourself, are you finally ready? Ready to live these teachings, not just hear them. Ready to embody the truth that was hidden for centuries. Ready to walk not in fear, but in love, power, and divine sovereignty. If your answer is yes, then your journey has already begun. Let us step back and reflect on what these forbidden teachings truly mean for you, right here, right now. For centuries, humanity has been conditioned to look outward for authority, salvation, and truth. We have been told that God is far away, that holiness belongs to a chosen few, and that we are powerless without intermediaries. But the teachings we have uncovered, the ones erased, silenced, or distorted, reveal something entirely different. They whisper to us that the kingdom of God is not in some distant heaven, but within your own heart. They tell us that you are not just a follower of truth, but a bearer of it. They remind us that your thoughts, your faith, your love, and your courage can shape the very fabric of reality. This is not about rebelling against religion or condemning traditions. It is about peeling back the layers of history to rediscover the luminous core of Jesus' message. He came not to build another empire, but to awaken souls. He came not to create followers, but to ignite creators. His words, if understood in their full power, threaten systems of domination precisely because they set you free. Think about what you have heard today. 10 teachings, each one like a seed. The seed that tells you the kingdom is within. The seed that reminds you that you are a co-creator with the divine. The seed that insists that every human being is equal before God. The seed that invites you into the silence of your own soul. The seed that reveals the sacred unity of all creation. The seed that unlocks forgiveness as the alchemy of liberation. The seed that whispers of the eternal journey of the soul. The seed that declares your divine identity. The seed that reveals the unimaginable power of your faith. And finally, the seed that blooms into the greatest law of all, unconditional love. Now the question is, what will you do with these seeds? Will you let them fall onto the rocky soil of forgetfulness where they wither away? Or will you plant them deep within, nurture them with reflection, practice, and courage until they grow into living truths that transform your life? I ask you again, not as a rhetorical question, but as a genuine challenge. Are you ready? Are you ready to see yourself not as a victim of fate, but as a vessel of divine light? Are you ready to see every person you encounter, even those who hurt you, as carriers of the same sacred spark? Are you ready to forgive, to love, to awaken, and to live as a conscious co-creator of your destiny? Remember, the teachings of Jesus were never meant to be locked in books or recited in rituals alone. They are living flames, meant to burn within you. They call you to action, to embody truth, to radiate love, to awaken consciousness, and to spread light into a world that still stumbles in shadows. So if these words resonate with you, let this not be the end but the beginning. Share this message not only with a click or a comment, but by living it in your daily life. Choose forgiveness where the world expects revenge. Choose compassion where the world demands judgment. Choose love where the world thrives on fear. For every act of love is an act of rebellion against the darkness that has tried to silence these truths for centuries. The world does not change because of grand speeches or mighty empires. It changes because of individuals like you who dare to live the forbidden teachings, who dare to awaken, who dare to embody the light of Christ within. So once more, with all the sincerity of spirit, are you finally ready? Because if you are, then the age of hidden truth is over. The time of awakening has come, and it begins right now with you. Thanks for looking.